General Grant and General Sheridan, could I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
General Sheridan, could you give me a little biographical background information on yourself?
I was born on March 6, 1831 in Boston, Massachusetts to John and Mary Sheridan. I have an older brother, Patrick, and an older sister, Rosa, but Rosa died on the ship over from Ireland. I also have 3 younger siblings, Mary, Michael, and John, who were all born in Somerset, Ohio, where I was raised, and I attended school there until I was 14. I began working for various businessmen after I left school. In 1848, I began attending West Point, but was suspended in 1851 for fighting with my fellow classmates. I graduated in 1853 and was assigned to the 1st Infantry in Fort Duncan, Texas. In 1855, I became 2nd Lieutenant for the 4th Infantry, and in 1856, I was promoted to 1st Lieutenant. On May 25th, 1862, I was promoted to Colonel of the 2nd Cavalry of Michigan. When I was only 31 years old, I was promoted to Brigadier General.
Thank you, General Sheridan. Grant, could you give me some background information on yourself?
Sure. I was born on April 27th, 1882 in Point Pleasant, Ohio. My family was a middle-class family, and my dad worked as a tanner. And I graduated in West Point in 1843, ranking 21st out of 32 graduating students. I then served in the Mexican-American War. Although I served efficiently with Zachary Taylor's army and with Winfield Scott's army in the campaign for Mexico City, where I won 2 brevets for meritorious conduct, I hated the war.
Thank you. General Sheridan, could you please give me your 3 major accomplishments?
Sure. In July 1862, when I was stationed near Boonville, Mississippi, with only 827 troops, I was able to outwit General Chalmers of the Confederate, who attempted to wipe out my men with his 5,000 men. Because of my brilliant war strategies, we were able to cause him to retreat. Another accomplishment I had was on April 1st, 1865, when I cut off General Lee's lines of support at Five Forks, forcing him to evacuate Petersburg. My 3rd greatest accomplishment was on April 6, 1865, when I captured 20% of his remaining men, and I then forced him to surrender at Appomattox Courthouse to General Grant.
Grant, could you please list your 3 major accomplishments?
Okay. One of my biggest accomplishments is being president. I became president in 1869 through 1877, and I was what they called the symbol of the Union because of my Civil War actions. My next biggest accomplishment was the win at Appomattox. Is that how you say it? Philip Sheridan? General Sheridan?
Yeah, Appomattox.
Appomattox, oh, okay. And with my favorite general here. And my last biggest accomplishment was, it was in September of 1863, and I went to save Rosecrans' army at Chattanooga, and I reinforced this army and replaced Rosecrans with George H. Thomas, and I opened doors and communications for them. Thank you.
General Sheridan, in your opinion, what was your greatest accomplishment and why?
I think that my greatest accomplishment was when I surrounded Lee's army and at Appomattox and forced him to surrender. If I had not achieved this, the Civil War could have continued longer and more destruction to our great country could have been caused. We would have still won the war, but it could have taken a lot more time.
General Grant, in your opinion, what was your greatest accomplishment and why?
I think my greatest accomplishment was the win at Appomattox. I think this was my greatest accomplishment because we took over and made General Lee one of the best and baddest generals on the Confederate side surrender. Because my general here surrounded him with his army, and I made him surrender with my generous terms.
General Sheridan, how did your greatest accomplishment benefit America at the time?
My accomplishment benefited America because if the South had not surrendered, then slavery could have continued and the nation would still be divided. And neither economy would be strong at all because they would have no industries and we would have no farming. So we could have been forced to be put in to take slavery because we would need farming, and so we would need someone to farm for us.
General Grant, how did your greatest accomplishment benefit America at the time?
I think my greatest accomplishment benefited America because I made General Lee surrender. I think this benefited us because he was one of the best generals on the Confederate side, and if I hadn't won, we probably would have lost the war and slavery probably would have continued. But since I won, I made America a better place.
One last question for each of you. General Sheridan, how might the world be different if you had not made such contributions?
Without my contributions, both nations would still be divided, and we would not have a strong economy, and America would fall apart because we would not have as many exports, and the economies would both fall.
General Grant, how might the world be different if you had not made such contributions?
If I hadn't made such contributions, it would be different because if I wasn't there, there would have been more civil wars between the North and South and with slavery and stuff. And also there would have been one less president, and that could have determined other situations to turn out badly.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
To decide that the things that I cried were in my life just to get high on. When I sit alone, come get a little known, but I need more